Welcome, and thank you for signing up and participating in the WOS Music Workshop, which is part of our In the Community Workshop program that includes our latest Workforce Essentials, which empowers individuals to move from entry-level positions to long-lasting professional success. Tonight, we have an incredibly beautiful panel who's going to give us the background and history on the Revels and especially this performance this year. I'd like to turn this over to Renee Collins, who is the artistic director and cast member. There you go, Renee.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you, Howard, for bringing us on and being a part of Workforce, WOS. My name is Renee Collins. I'm the artistic director of the California Revels, and been with them for about 30 years. And we are doing our show La Sirène, and we've decided to bring the nuts and bolts of the inner workings of the show and have some of our great performers and writers and costume designers. So you can have questions, ask questions of them at any point. And we'd love to give you some history, some detail about Revels and about the show. I'd like to introduce Lisa Lowe she's on my left, but it wouldn't be left for you, obviously. Lisa Lowe is the other part of my brain who I couldn't do anything without. She's my executive director, and she's wonderful and brilliant. Can I give it to you now, Lisa? You can just introduce everybody.
Sure. I'm happy to do that. Thank you, everyone, for having us and joining us today, and for participating when you're able to see La Sirène streaming starting on the 21st. So we would not be here with all of you today if it wasn't for our tradition bearer this year, Melanie Damore. We met Melanie through a summer solstice event that we do that we paired with our Juneteenth celebration, and so that's how we got in touch with Melanie and then brought her in for this. So Melanie, if you want to go ahead and unmute, say hello.
Hello, everyone. It's been my pleasure to be the tradition bearer or keeper for the Revels. It's just been incredible, and I am really, really pleased to be able to bring what I do into what the Revels does. So it's a good thing, and that's all you're going to get right now. I'm just saying.
Thank you, Melanie. We'll learn more about Melanie's Gullah stick pounding tradition in a little bit. When this season started, we didn't have Renee. We were looking for an artistic director, and I sat down with our long-standing artistic staff, and I said, "Hey, we can do whatever we want this year. What would make you really excited?" And so our associate music director, Anne Bingham Guess, and our choreographer extraordinaire, so much more than just choreography, Jerry Reed were part of that, and they brought this idea of a sea show. So the two of you, go ahead, unmute, say hello.
Oh, I am unmuted. Hi, good to see everybody.
Well, you could have said a little bit more. Anne brought, Jerry was part of this idea, like magical, fun, mystical. We thought we were going to be like jumping from land to land at first when we first sat down and started. And Anne loves historical research, and so she started to investigate this character, Joseph Johnson, not just a character, a person who actually lived.
Yeah, I was really inspired by our fabulous production manager, Michelle Sullivan, who has been attending sea shanty. She's part of the sea shanty movement here in the Bay Area. And she and I attended a virtual concert, which was some songs of the sea, some sung by Peter Kaysen and his friend Richard. And then also a couple from the East Coast, Ron and Natalie Dice, I hope I'm saying their name correctly, who introduced us to some of the Gullah songs and maritime water sea related songs. And it was so inspiring. And and I was reading a book about African American mariners, trying to find out more about this connection, and discovered this historical figure. And when I saw his picture and read about him, he was a sailor and a musician. And I just thought the picture of him is just so amazing. You can see so much of a story in his face. It's this beautiful engraving from 1817. Anyway, we thought maybe we can uncover a story here. And then when Jeff came on board, all of a sudden the story became this amazing, fully fleshed out, exciting, because I'm sure his life was exciting. I read a lot about the life of, well, I read the memoir of Olaudah Equiano, who was enslaved in the 18th century and then eventually made his way to London. So he was probably 20 years older than Mr. Johnson, but a lot of his exploits were, I think, really helpful in getting a sense of what a seafaring life in the 18th century would have been like, and especially for a person of color. And so that was a fascinating read. It was a bestseller in the 1790s.
Thank
Hit
you.
book. Yeah.
Jerry, do you want to add anything before, and then we'll introduce Jeff?
We just had hoped that, I mean, Anne had found this beautiful picture of the man with the ship on his head, and as she's saying, such an intriguing start to jump in on. The very original idea was that we wanted a theme which had concepts which were pretty universal. We sometimes, if we're talking about like the exact details of the winter solstice, are more important the further north you go. But the sea is a concept of life and freedom, of return to home, things that would have a good scope for our a basis for our show.
Thank you. So then we got Renee, and we handed him what we were starting to work on, and then we added Jeff Raz, our playwright this year, also a longtime performer with California Revels. Jeff.
Thank you. It's really nice to be talking about this show after we have it open. The logistics of opening a show sometimes take over from all the wonderful parts of it. When I sat down with two people you've met, so Jerry and Anne, and musical director Shira, and talked with Renee and Lisa over the phone, but the three of them had put together a wonderful idea, a flow of a story. So as a playwright to come into that is like, oh, thank you. And the one of the interesting early moments was that the story was starting to coalesce, starting in London, going to the Caribbean, and going back to London. And Renee said, let's stay in the Caribbean. And that was kind of the moment I came in. He said, if we go back to London, it's really a white point of view. It's the London point of view. If we stay in the Caribbean, you've now shifted it. So let's see what that does. And I will give some incredible props to Renee. He was really clear on this and did it in such a way that I could go, okay, let's see what that is. What's this adventure? Writing this play is different than any other play I've written, and I've written a lot of them because there was so much given. And, I could have gone, well, I would like to start with a clean slate. I am an artist. And it said, no, thank you. That's very clear. Tell me what you mean by that. And then I started having conversations with Renee, with Lisa, with Melanie. Melanie and I joked that a lot of part of the play happened because of Pete's tea, because we would meet. And what I was finding, and I felt a little guilty, is that I would have a conversation with Melanie, and, for example, I was telling her this part of the plot is we're starting to get together, meeting, the ship comes to the island. Okay. And she said, oh, I've got it. And I went, you do? Because I'm lost here. She goes, listen, you've got a work song going on the ship. I said, yes. She says, I'll get a work song going from the land because they meet around work and work songs. And she did this with her hands. I went, got it. And I went home, wrote the scene. And what I loved was when Melanie came to rehearsal, which is months later, we said, where are we? I said, Melanie, we're at this place where oh, I know where we are. Good. We can do that. And I sit and talking to Renee outside in a chilly day in a cafe where we wanted to sit outside because of COVID. And I'm asking him about who is La Sirène and talking. And the little things that I'm getting down, those details, end up being the gold of a script, while the big idea and the flow that Jerry, Shira, and Ann had put together is the container. And the last thing I just want to say is that the details in the script are just about, I helped with the shape, but the details are just about all I had to write because there's so much language in the lyrics of the songs. And that becomes this interesting challenge of how do the lyrics of this song help propel us? Maybe they don't. When they're singing a Christmas carol, it's singing a Christmas carol. So what's the song doing? It's the first song of the piece. It's establishing street performers on Covent Garden in England. That's the job. So the words are, but what about when Renee, is singing about wanting to go back to the sea? Oh, those lyrics exactly tell the story of an old sailor dying and wanting to go home from London to his island. Beautiful. So the details, those little moments were key. And I'll stop there because I could keep going because I love the show, but I'll stop there.
Thank you, Jeff. And through this whole process, we had Callie Floor, our costume designer, with us, helping inform what may or may not be possible for us in terms of costumes and moments that we could have. Callie.
Well, I've been doing Revels I've been involved as long as Renee has. Renee was in the very first show I did in Revels in 1989. And it's a show very different than other, I do a lot of opera and I do a lot of legitimate theater. It's a very different kind of show than anything else I do. And of course, any show that you do, you have to, as a designer, you always have to go back to the text or the music. If you're having any design problems, it's not in the visuals, it's in the written word. And for Revels, it's in the music, even more than in an opera, because it really is about illuminating the music that we sing in a particular time or a particular culture, all about this time of year with the days getting shorter and getting colder, and we really celebrate our life so that we bring the sun back, because that's a matter of survival. So that manifests in lots of different cultures, and we've had the pleasure of going all over the world with this show. But this show had more of a really poignant narrative structure than just about any show we've done. And we had these characters who were really intersecting, not just in a more than entertaining way than we've had before. And we also had what we've not done before are costume changes, because we've gone to different places. So that was we're not set up for that. Our resources are different now. A lot of the costume rental places have closed. There are no costume shops where you can rent a space to do a build. And doing a show this big, you usually have a costume shop where you do fittings, and then there's a crew there and you hire those people to work. And we didn't have that this year. So logistically, it was a little different, and having the costume changes is a little different. And then not knowing how the COVID stuff was going to play out was a little different. But I really enjoyed the whole process. We had a lot of meetings, weekly meetings, and things would, we knew things would be changing as the world developed in different ways. So we pulled out the kids. We even, we made a decision, there were like this idea of, well, will vaccinations be available for kids under 12? And at some point we had to say, we are going to film the kids no matter what the vaccination status is, so that we can make plans to do that. And then Jerry, as a choreographer, somehow became a film director. on top of everything else she was doing. And then Anne was a location scout. And we filmed the kids in 2 different venues, like on the beach in Alameda, and then in a brick wall in Emeryville, for London. And so that was, it was a very different process this time around. And I'm still processing the process. I'm not, but that's where we work. That's, the logistics of it, very different from what we normally do.
Thank you, Kelly. And if you have any of your sketches of particularly La Sirène or anything you want to share, Howard, I think made you a co-host, so you can share those in a little bit.
Sure. While we're chatting, I'll pull them out of the folder they're in on my computer.
Part of California Revels, there are 9 Revel cities around the United States. One of the basic foundations of these companies is the idea of celebrating together as an entire family, generation from generation, and passing on these traditions, watching how they change over time and acknowledging that that's part of life. And so for us, we have usually a children's chorus ages 7-ish and up. We have a teen chorus we call young performers or YPs, and then we have our adult chorus and our professional actors, dancers, performers, musicians, tradition bearers. And so coming into this year, looking like, for a variety of reasons, everyone had to be vaccinated to participate, not being able to have our children was gut-wrenching. And so what Kelly was talking about was really working really hard to find a way that we could keep that tradition going, not just from a business point of view and all of that, but from, we're family. California Revels is a company that's a community that stays together. So that was really important to us, and a not insignificant challenge that we had to overcome. So we have all these artistic staff, designers coming in, and then we get to our actors. So with us today, we have Renee Collins, you already met, artistic director and playing Joseph Johnson, and also Robert Siculer, who plays the captain. Robert, say hi.
Hello, everybody. How are you all doing? And happy holidays. Yeah, I'm an artistic associate or an associate artist. I'm not sure which, but I don't think it really matters. And I've been doing the Revels for years and years, and am so happy to be back with it. Renee and I are old colleagues from the early days back in our ute. And when I heard that he was going to be the new artistic director, I knew that I had to be in the show to help support him in his first year. And I'm just having the best time, of course, always do. The Revels actually means more to me than just about anything else I do, because it has so much to do with community and feeling and hope and moving forward. And this year is so different too, because I feel that we've made a concerted effort really to include more of the community and to branch out into different directions. And it feels it feels so inclusive, and the spirits are so high. It's great. Everything is kind of it's crazy getting the show together, all these people. I don't know how many people are in the company, about 40, maybe more on the stage, and we have dancing and singing, and it's insane. And we don't have a lot of time to put it up, because a lot of people have real lives, families, jobs, and all those things. But it all comes together with like the great mystery that theater is. And it's wonderful. The feedback from the first weekend has been incredibly positive, and it's a show I'm very proud of. And for me, it's just so much fun. I mean, I get to sing and dance, and I get to be a ship's captain. And I don't actually say "ar," but I feel it. I feel it in my heart. That I do.
Thank you. So you've met those of us here. I think I caught all of us. So what is it that you're going to see on the 21st? And the link will be available the 21st through January 5th, the Winter Solstice through 12th night. So if you miss it on the 21st, it'll still be available to you. So Jeff, Renee, tell us the short version of La Sirène.
I'll
Yep.
go first. I just have to say, one of my favorite moments since you just met Robert. Robert and I have known each other since we were in high school. Is I got to write him getting eaten by a sea monster, and then even better, something that rarely happens in the life of an artist, I get to have an old friend puked up by that same sea monster. I won't just go there.
Ew.
And then that is the next line. But the great moment is, and Melanie, I'm glad you said it, the great thing is right after that ridiculous and strange moment, we have the central conflict of the play, because as he comes out, he pulls out a Union Jack and says, "I claim this land for England," and Melanie's character, who lives on that island, comes out and puts her sticks down and says, she doesn't say anything. She's standing there, and we see this. So the absurdist moment, if I can use that word, is right up against the basic conflict of the play, the real meaning of the play. Renee, I'll let you take it from there.
I have to say, one of the funniest moments during rehearsal, and Melanie probably, the first time we did this with Melanie, Melanie had her sticks because she's got finished doing Gullah stick, Welcome to Clean. And the captain put the stick down with the flag, with the Union Jack. "I claim this for King George." And Melanie said, "Where do I put these sticks?" And we just busted out laughing. It was one of the funniest experiences.
I guess we decided not to leave that. I don't know why, but still.
I can't imagine why either.
I'm putting that in the apex of the play, in the notes, the footnotes.
Yeah.
That's for our closing night cast party version of
So so when I first came in, here's some of the
I just thought I would throw these up here while we're chatting. While we're chatting.
Oh yeah, well, I would love if you just went and explain your vision for this, Callie.
I'll do it briefly. So this is a bunch of so most of the chorus, because they were singing the sea shanties, were sailors. And this period, most of the able seamen did not have a uniform. You only had a uniform if you were an officer on the ship, which was great because it gave me an opportunity to kind of I didn't have to provide a uniform. We could do some more character-y stuff and unify things by, in my research, black kerchiefs and red caps were worn a lot. We went back and forth in time. So in the, in the first section where we're in London, I had some of the sailors in top hats, and then I traded them out for tricorns, a couple of them, just to get, because we really couldn't do like costume change. Believe me, we couldn't do costume changes on everybody. So that's most of the chorus was this. And then let's see if I can find, I had it up here, but of course, let me stop share. So I'm going to share another. So we had a Fair Maid, which was a really fun little number where sailors are revealed to be lady sailors. So we got to do sort of a cross-dressing thing that I've never been able to do. And it's the first time I was able to talk some of it, because we always have so many little girls. Like we'll have 10 little girls and 3 little boys in our children's chorus. And this year I was able to talk them into going in drag for the first time. Because I said, well, it's a theme of the show. There's a lot of adult ladies who are dressed as boys too. So that was fun. And then we had our La Sirène character, who we first see her sort of in disguise as an 1815 lady, and she sort of sets the stage for us and introduces us to Joseph Johnson, because she said, "I've been conjured here for a reason. He needs me to be here." So you get the sense that this is not her normal element. And Jeff very cleverly wrote in an instant costume change And then just in a moment, she becomes this. So, and we have this really lovely young woman named Milan Whitfield, who is otherworldly in an amazing way, and very grounded at the same time. So she was great. She's great. So that's a bit. I'll show you maybe a little bit of the kids, because the kids are always really fun. So these are the street urchin children. And then they also became, let's see, I should know how to do this, but okay, then they became island children. So that's them. So that's the flavor of the show. It's a lot of research from the Caribbean from that period, and then London from 1815, and then going back to the Caribbean in the 18th century.
Of course, there were also mer people.
Oh, the mer people.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Mer people.
So cool. Those mer
Okay,
people.
okay, I will share the mer people.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Show the fins and stuff. I love that.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, while you're doing that, I want to introduce Amy.
There's a mer person.
Oh, there's a mer person right there. There we go.
You can see I was using that when I was painting, and it's kind of a mess, but there we go.
But wait a second, everyone should know that they're played by 3 people.
So it's kind of an oversized puppet, and I was looking at a lot of folk art, or art from the Caribbean, a lot of stamped tin, cut tin. So I wanted them to have a 2D, 3D dimension to them. And let's see if I can. And then we had a Lusca, which is our sea monster, and the props person did that prop as a 2D puppet that broke apart as well. So yeah, but you'll see it when you see the show.
Yeah,
how it works. And these amazing projections that kind of set it up, and then they come in real life.
Amy Marie Haven is here. When I first became artistic director, I scoured and looked for the perfect person to direct the show, and
Amy.
Amy is that director. I could not have Jeff and I never seen so much wonderful chemistry between a director and a playwright. These two, I could put them in the room, and just creativity was just going massively crazy. Amy, can you introduce yourself? And she's, I don't know how much time she has, so I definitely want to get her in. Amy?
Hi, everybody. I'm so happy to be here. I'm actually zooming in from the Winter Garden Theater in New York. We're at day 6 of Tech for the Music Man, so it's dinner break. So I'm eating my dig healthy meal and wanted to pop in and see your faces and just, share a couple moments of my Revels experience. Like Renee said, from day 1 when he and I met, we could just feel that. I was like, oh, hi, Master Clown. We're gonna have so much fun. And Jeff was the first person I talked to after Renee. And when he, understanding what Revels was from Jeff's mouth, from his mind, was just the most powerful. Jeff should introduce everybody. Jeff should introduce everybody to Revels. It's just like, what is this community? And I'm here for it. So I got this opportunity to be a producing fellow on Broadway's Music Man. So I had to leave the show 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago, and Jeff and I sat at a coffee shop, and I said, I love you. I've had so much fun with your script and really tried to dive in with the actors that we have and the designers and all of the creatives and the elements. And here it is to you to finish. And we literally had a moment of, I said, Jeff, I hate to say it, but I feel like with your training and your clowning and all of the things you bring, you're actually going to finish. I love that I got to put the bones up, like I kept saying every day, but you get to finish the show. So working on a show, I had some book work with Milan, with our La Sirène, talking about, she's like, I've never had a mixed, I asked her a question about not her Blackness, but about Blackness or about her racial and ethnic identity in playing this role. And she said, I've never been asked that question. I've never had a mixed director, and I've never been cast in a role like this. It's built around, the traditions of our people. So just every element, I feel like I got to pull the 1,000 strings, which in Revels land is 1,000,000 strings, and kind of bring it together to let it be refined. And the photos and the videos and the things I'm seeing of what has been created, friends, I'm so sad not to be able to see it in person, and I can't wait to stream it. And I've never been on such a large and talented and dedicated creative team. It's been an honor to co-direct and co-direct with Jeff and Renee, and space hold with you all. What a huge accomplishment when we can all come together under a shared vision with shared values.
Thank you, Amy. We're so proud that Amy got this wonderful opportunity, and we're like, you better go, girl.
When does the process for the annual pageant start? When do you start planning this? What's the timeline for when you start to work this, obviously? And when do rehearsals start? How long does it take? And when do you finally culminate with, that you're ready for it?
Well, we actually started this process, I want to say June, when I got hired. The concepts are already there, thanks to the research from Jerry and Sirène and Lusca. And the structure was already there as far as what songs, for the most part. I reached out to Jeff that June, right, Jeff? Around June, that time? Late June, middle of June? And
Sure,
you started.
that sounds right.
Yeah. And then the script was done by, I want to say, middle of September. And then we actually started rehearsing, I think around, November. We actually had our first rehearsal around November. We had some meetings in between. That doesn't include the weekly meetings, of course. That goes on continuously. But we really started putting it together as far as staging. Amy would start the staging around the weekend of the 8th of November. And our rehearsal process was primarily weekends. And there were long weekends, obviously, because we'd start at like 10 and we go till 7 or 8 or 9. And by I want to say by Tech Week, everything, all the pieces were put together. So by the first week of December. So we had about a month, a little less than a month. It was just weekends and not every day.
I also want to add, I believe that the adult chorus starts rehearsing. Beginning.
That's right.
October. The music.
That's right. The music starts in musical course start. Thank you, Captain. The music starts actually in September. They're rehearsing and practicing. So the music gets done first, and then we do the staging towards the last part. So it's in September, I believe. Yeah.
And
So we're not saying that this is the preferred way to do it.
Right.
We're hoping to be able to back up and get a little bit more time. It's amazing that all the components come together, speaking as a person who helps put them together and make sure that the anti-aliasing happens between all the little sections as they pop in. Some of them popped in during Tech Week. So it's quite hard.
Yeah. Normally you want to take a little bit longer with it, but because of COVID and because of the changing of the garden situation, things were kind of crammed together. Usually you want a script before June, and you've already had your meetings, and you've already got the general vision, and then go from there. But we had to sort of squeeze, I think, into 3 months of work, which would take at least 6 months.
And then what I wanted to say is it's once again, it wouldn't happen without the dedication that our chorus has. There are professionals, but they behave as professionals. The attention that they give, the enthusiasm and the heart that they put into things that's the only reason that it actually works. They're 100% present. They love to learn, and it's just astounding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Can someone describe the orchestration or the music behind the chorus?
And
sure, I can take a stab at it. I wish Shira were here. Shira Kamen has been music director for, I want to say 4 or 5 years. Fred Goff was our music director before, and she was his associate music director. And now she's taken on the music role, and I help her out. She travels around the world giving workshops. Her specialty is really medieval music, and she plays the viol and the harp and the violin and all kinds of instruments. But she's incredibly versatile. So she started as soon as Jerry and I met, back in March or April. She started researching music, and Jerry said at one point she would love to see kind of like the night sky on a ship where it's just all stars. And of course, Jerry's an astronomer too. So then Shira said, "Oh, okay, no problem." And she comes out with this amazing piece called Star Clusters, which is very, it's kind of experimental. It's more like it sounds like a 21st century choral piece, but it's just stunning. And it was, so we sing it kind of in the dark with the projections of the stars, and that's the opening of Act 2. And then Melanie comes out and leads the welcome day cleaning. So that was an original piece. Most of the other songs that Shira gathered are in the folk tradition, sea shanties that she loved. Because our characters, or the character's name was Joseph Johnson. All the sea shanties seem to be talking about Johnny this or and my name is Joseph Johnson. It just seemed to work perfectly with the repertoire that was, traditional folk repertoire that was out there. So she adapted it all and arranged it for 4, sometimes even 8-part harmony.
And also, oh, sorry, Anne.
Yeah.
And Melanie too brought in this whole other musical element along with some of our other tradition bearers from the Caribbean. They're drumming.
Yeah, I was just about to bring Melanie into this as well. Melanie, would you want to please chime in with the Gullah tradition, which is a major part of this?
Right, but also I want to say, first of all, the choir sings extraordinarily beautifully. They're just beautiful. And Shira is a badass mamma jamma. I'm just saying. Sister Girl does not play around. And the thing is that's so wonderful just about her playing and her directing is that the sound is so authentic to the time. So you're hearing, you're hearing these instruments. And I was talking to somebody about this the other night, because the banjos that they use sound closer to plantation banjos. So they don't have that tinny sound. And that's kind of like how they have more of a wooden, more elemental sound. And just the thought behind that just makes the music sit in your ear in a more authentic way. She's bad. She's bad. And the musicians all the way around are just wonderful. And you really, that's the whole point of music, is to really almost immediately take you to a time and a place and a feeling. And I gotta say, the choir and the musicians and Shira they have nailed that 100%. They're just incredible. And my part, of course, is bringing the Gullah tradition with the choir. And I had to take them pretty deep in that we had to create the sticks and make them and just really understand the language and the connection between rhythm and survival and story. And I have to say that they were so willing to go all the way with me there. Because it's not easy to do, but also it's not something that you can do in a two-dimensional way. It's really important to me that we are not playing around, that you know what this is about, and that you put yourself in the center of that. And I have one more observation to make, that the captain, Robert, he's got the best eyebrows in town. I'm just saying. These are things that I notice. I'm just saying. Come on. I mean, that looks like a captain. I'm just saying. These are the things that all the makeup in the world can't make up. That's just, anyway. So it's been my pleasure to bring the stories in, and one of the songs in it that I brought for us to do, and because I love this thing in the Revels where they have places for the audience to sing, which is right up my alley. And so when Jeff and I were having our meeting at Pete's, and we were talking about this, I said, I would love to do come by here. Because which most people know it as Kumbaya, but most people don't know that that song is a Gullah spiritual from the Gullah South Sea Islands. And our main character, Joseph Johnson, is from Defusky Island, which is part of the Gullah Sea Islands. And I wanted to bring that song because everybody on the planet knows it, but they're not really sure about what it's really about. And its connection in the context of what happens in our show, I think, is a really nice. It's very, very powerful and very strong. And to have all those people pounding, so you will see that. And I have a pair here in case anybody wanted to see. Here's sticks, pounding sticks right here. And so we have practically the whole cast has made sticks, including a lot of the youth that came with us. And so it's even deepened our connection of being of this common language that we share. And it's been my pleasure to be a part of the Revels because I had no idea what it was at all until now. And I wanted to really also thank Callie for seeing me who I was and not making me wear one of them dresses. Okay. Yeah, you would have had to feed me to the sea monster.
I don't think I could make you do anything.
Well, that's true. But still. But it's wonderful to be seen. You'd have to feed me to the sea monster.
Yeah, that's my job.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
So I thank you so much to Jeff and Renee and the whole crew, Lisa and all of you for letting me be a part of the Revels family. I hope that this won't be our last association.
Oh no.
Believe me, we have your phone number.
Oh no, they know where I live. Oh my God.
I've got plans. I've got plans.
Okay, my son, let me know.
Yeah, not the least of which is Renee and I are very passionately pursuing a youth education program. And so we hope to be working on that in the Q1 of 2022.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again for letting me be a part of this. And Jeff, I love you, man. I really do. I like the way that you have the way of creating a space where people get to be in their biggest and best selves. And I've worked with a lot of folks over the years, and I'd work with you anytime, baby. I'm just saying. That's all.
Thank you, Melanie. That's great. We're honored, so honored. You're definitely the icing on the cake for us. Definitely, absolutely. The other musical part, just to keep, and this is a long-winded explanation, and how much time we have, Howard, but there's the Caribbean music that we put into this as well. So Joseph, through a sea chase, ends up on the Caribbean islands, and there is a Jonkonnu parade. So let me explain a little about that. Jonkonnu is an actual parade that is celebrated throughout the West Indies. And I'm just gonna share my screen and just give you an idea of what the costumes look like. Well, the original costumes over there, I don't have anything up from the show, but just give you an idea and then tell a bit of story. Oh, I can't share. Maybe Callie, if you can.
Now, I made you co-host.
Oh, you did? Oh, okay. So I just want to give you a bit of a background of new parade. You can see African. It's like almost like Carnival. And you see all these beautiful costumes, the masks, and so forth. Now, Jonkonnu happens during this time of the year, okay? And here's what I'm going to stop the share, just to deliver a short explanation. Jonkonnu comes from Johnny Canoe. And Jeff can talk about this too, because he did some research on this too. Jonkonnu is an Ashanti chief in Ghana who was able to hold off the Dutch invaders for almost 20 years with 20,000 men. Now, this is an important piece to us because in the Revels tradition, we have what's called the mummers play. Usually it's about St. George and the dragon, St. George killing the dragon, and then the death of the fool, and then the resurrection. Well, we have our own, in our traditions, we have a St. George, Jonkonnu, who successfully was able to hold off European invaders for 20 years. And that's actually what started this parade, the celebration of Jonkonnu, where they get Jonkonnu. And I was approached by a man who is from that country, who grew up and saw the show. And he was moved by the entire show, but he said, I've been going to Jonkonnu for years. I did not realize, and I'm from there, I did not realize that it's Jonkonnu. I did not know that. They didn't tell us in my culture. That was a powerful thing, how the story gets lost. So the genius of Jeff Raz put together first ever an African mummers play about an actual character to bring pride and information and knowledge about what we are as a people and how we can survive. And as Melanie says, you know, what we do is we take nothing and make something out of it. That's what we do. And so the music and the mummers play is all based in that. And then you'll find at a certain point where everything kind of comes together towards the end. You got the Caribbean, you got the Gullah tradition, and it all ties together around the end. Jeff, you want to talk a little bit about that? About the mummers play?
And one other thing too is that right after when you get taken away, and then the sea shanty starts singing about roll that chariot along, and a chariot, of course, is a very important symbol in African American tradition. I thought, okay, I really like that, and I'm not sure, if that connection might have gotten to you there, but the chariot is major in African American lore, and it's all about on the way to freedom and all that. And I was like, I wonder if they knew about that. Just throwing it in.
Yeah. And we were, before you go, Jeff, yeah.
I'm going to pretend I'm going to take full credit. But I think that's one of those things that when you start working and then you're looking for the connections and you're finding them and everyone's engaged, some happen that you get lucky on. No, I got nothing else to say about that except this parade we have has an amazing amount of complexity. It's got the show within the show. We have stilt walkers. We have amazing dancers, this combination band, this play within there, and Abbott's Bromley. It's a very rich moment towards the end of the play that is bringing the threads together, but not in a plot way, but in a musical, emotional, and kind of historical way.
Yeah. Jeff and I were talking over one of the performances, and he was saying the audience will make these connections. And my point was that's a human thing. We make connections. If we didn't, we just wouldn't survive. So the connections are personal to the audience. Some of them are everyone's going to pick up. Others are going to pick up different ones. But that I think is a major point of theater, really.
Mm-hmm. Another thing is how we blend some of the Celtic influence with African drumming. You'll hear that when Cher is playing the violin, and some of the music where there's light percussion under the bottom of it. So once again, we're seeing we are embracing our cultural strengths, but also we're celebrating. It comes from someplace. There's this unifying feel, this unifying thing underneath all of it, so that's one of my favorite things.
That really struck me when we first sat down before Renee came in. We started this process, I don't know, Jerry Ann, like in January, right? I said, okay, we have to figure out putting on a show, and our board president and I we're gonna make this happen until we have an artistic director, a script writer, a stage director, all those people in place. And so I started researching what it is that we do, looking at winter solstice traditions in cultures around the world and their mythology and their lore, their folklore. And Anne was really heading up historical research, and Shira and working on music research. And we were all coming together, and I came across this character in Caribbean mythology called Papa Bois, and he is, I mean, Renee, you describe so much better than I do. That character, this like embodiment of Earth, and with antlers, kind of like a stag man. And from California Rebels' point of view, we frequently talk about a character called the Green Man. And we have this piece called Abbott's Bromley, where it's the Antler Dance, and it's an ancient dance. Everyone holds antlers, and you'll see it in this show. And I said, this is perfect, right? Putting these two cultures together with a similar character, sharing the space at the same time, and doing what it is that they do, and that beauty of, oh, it's not just us. You have this too. Like, we have all of these things in common without needing to use words to say any of that, right? Just there it is presented on stage. And that was really, for me, the start of where else can we put all of this synergy together and highlight these cultures together, and also individually, and what makes them so.
This may be the fastest hour that I've ever spent. I'm overwhelmed right now. I cannot wait till we get the chance to see this. I want to, if anyone has questions, now's the time, because we don't have a lot of time left. Ask some questions if you want.
We were either very clear or very confusing, one or the other.
Very clear, very exciting. I think I just can't wait. The anticipation is there. It's amazing to me. Now, can you describe the venue where this happens?
It's a church. It's the first Congregational church in Oakland, California. And it's this wonderful church. It's been around, I don't know what the age is, but it's this beautiful little church. And since when, Lisa?
The 20s, I think, like early
20s. Yeah, and it's actually smaller than the other venue. It used to be at the Scottish Rite, which is this very huge, 3,000 seat arena. And but in this case, the church is a much more smaller, really intimate way of having a Revels. In many ways, a way that a Revels was meant to be. When I first joined the Revels 30 years ago, I was told that Revels was supposed to be more intimate, and so we're able to do it in this wonderful little church. And we put together. I wish we had the designers here. The designers are some of the best in the Bay Area. They put together an incredible stage that fit in and around the pews and everything. It's just an incredible piece.
It's gorgeous.
It becomes a city in the beginning, and then it becomes a boat, and then it becomes the island. And then there are these projections that go up on the walls that help facilitate the story. It's a fantastic venue for us.
And one of the things I love about this church is that it's in the before times, before COVID, it's one of the most active churches in the community. All kinds of people go there. They do all kinds of events there, and I like that. It's a church that's actually connected to the community. So I think it's only appropriate that this show is there.
When Amy was heading off to New York and she was handing over her book to me, literally, we were talking about the staging at one point, and there's a big shrine to Black folks who've been killed by police, and it's a Black Lives Matter shrine off to the side. And I suggested staging the opening of the parade past down the two sides, and she said, "Perfect. The parade, the conclusion, will walk by this shrine, and whether the audience notices or not, we will know." And that's what you were saying, Melanie. It resonates in a way in that
Absolutely.
room. Yeah.
I wanted to just mention really quickly too that two amazing performers in the show, kind of on it. Renee was in touch with the Prescott Circus, which is a group that encourages kids to explore circus arts and theater for all kids, but especially kids who are maybe not enjoying all the advantages of the private schools or whatever. It's just a fabulous way to get all this experience. And so these two amazing young women are stilt dancers, and it's
Amazing.
it's really been,
You can thank Jeff for that. Jeff.
oh yeah,
Oh yeah,
thank
because
you,
Jeff,
Jeff.
aren't weren't you the mentor for their director, right?
I'll take any credit I can, but it's probably not due. It's a program that's been going for 30 years in a middle school in Oakland called Prescott School, and it's great. These two young stilt dancers come on stage, and they look so fragile, and they're young. They're really young.
really
They're
young.
in their teens, and they start to dance, and by the end, the audience is screaming because they're bouncing
They're
on
doing
one foot.
crazy
It's really dance.
stuff.
My favorite moment is when she goes,
Mhm.
wait,
Yeah.
wait,
Take that one still, yeah.
and then she takes her foot up, and it's like, oh my god.
Yeah, they're Amanda and Malia are their names, and watching them grow and watching the audience tell them how good they are.
And just the background of
Prescott Circus also gives academic support and homework support at the same time, interspaced with the different circus arts and fun and snacks. It's a really great thing.
And just the background, the stilt walking is called African stilt dancing. It's right from Western Africa. It's also a part, in many cases, the Jonkonnu parade will have these tall stilt walkers that could bounce up and down and get up and get back down. They do incredible acrobatics on the stilts. It's crazy. And we were fortunate enough to get those children. That's what they specialize in. So it just raised the experience of the show to a whole other level. It's like, do you like this? Oh, that's good. But when you see this, okay, you like this? Okay, when do you see it? That's the way the show works, and there's never a dull moment. Yeah.
We had a slight fault in the projections one night, and fortunately, it was exactly when the stilt walkers were on. It's the only thing that could cover. Nobody was looking at the projections, were they? They're all looking at
I
the
want
stilt
to,
walkers.
Jerry, who does the beautiful projections? That just knocks me out.
So Peter Crompton designed the stage set that in all its versatility. Frederick Boulay did the technical part of the projections, and once again, Peter Crompton is an artist and has designed the projection. They took green screen photographs of the actors in costume, turned them into silhouettes after art forms that they saw that were correct, and project them up with waves.
That's ridiculous. But it's just beautiful. I mean, I'm back there. I've only seen it like 6 million times, and every time I'm like, ooh, it's beautiful. It's really beautiful.
I'm actually going to try and see if I can pull up just some of the staging.
One of their talents is just to make it just enough. You could watch the show a lot of times and just watch the projections.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's not as if it draws away from the action. It enhances the action.
Absolutely.
You
can actually get a little seasick as you're watching the. That's how good it is. Wow. Can you find that, Renee?
Yeah, I'm gonna share the screen. So here we go. 1 second. I hope I can share the screen. Oh boy, here we go. Facebook. Okay, there we go. I think there's some sound too. I think this is towards the. Let's do this for right now. Projections in the back, hopefully. Were you able to see that? Were you able to see and hear some of that? Anybody?
It's a little jerky, but that's.
Oh, we get the idea. It's incredibly beautiful.
They're on our Facebook page. If you look for California Revels on Facebook, you'll see these little snippets of video, of images of the projections and costumes, and and all of that. Our production manager, Michelle Sullivan, handles our social media posting for the most part, and she has all kinds of little.
And she lets me use her office as a dressing room.
Does anybody know who La Sirène is? I don't know if that was the question that came up with. I know we're running out of time. We're past time. Just La Sirène is the Haitian goddess of the water. In the voodoo traditions, she's known as a Lowe. So a Lowe, which is LWA, Lowe means like God or spirit of the voodoo tradition, and that's who we picked. And so a lot of the African inspired religious and spiritual implications have been weaved through the piece. And Jeff has gone to great lengths to make sure that was a part of it.
Right. So we might, in the Yoruba, they might have Jemaya. And so,
it would be Yemaya. Yeah, it's just the same. Yemaya and La Sirène the same. Yeah.
Well, if we're, that's probably a good place for us to wrap up, I would think. I am so honored that you folks committed to doing this tonight. We're going to spread the word this week. We're going to get it out there. We're going to get this video out. We'll give people a chance to dig into the back scenes of this, and we're all just anticipating to see the stream performance next week. I wish I could come there to see it live. But it is quite a flight from Vermont right now. So, so this is the best that we can do. I wanted to ask Jeff though, real quick, Jeff, how long did it take for you to put the book together, the whole play together?
I guess total it took about 3 months, something like that. But I got handed a nice structure, and then when it's done, it isn't done. Because, for example, Melanie was teaching a workshop with the cast late in the process, and she talked about the experience of someone growing up in a village in West Africa, and then in the middle of the night suddenly finding themselves in a hull of a ship. And it was so, and the silence in the room as 60 people listened to Melanie. First of all, I go, oh, I'm so happy she's in our show. And then I said, but that speech needs to be in our show. And I ran over to Amy. I said, what if I turned that speech into a speech? She goes, do it right now. And so I wrote it out. So, and that there's a certain growth that happens as it goes. And with a piece this complex, still growing. Like I changed a line for La Sirène yesterday, and blessed she did it. But yeah, that's a long answer.
Appreciate that. So folks, I'm honored again, and WS is certainly grateful for everything you do. Everyone here in this cast, everyone here in the production, every one of you, we are just incredibly impressed, and I can't wait for it to see it next week. Break a leg, keep going, and we'll see you all next week, even if it's just by streaming.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Howard.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
Stay warm.
See you guys soon.